Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
And for the rest of the show, we're going to be enjoying it in the presence of the great Jordan Maxwell. I don't need to tell you, he's one of the world's most respected researchers and scholars, no doubt about it. Writing and talking and broadcasting about the occult, religious philosophy, hidden politics for many, many years now, 5 decades, I reckon. He's been, you can find him on jordanmaxwellshow.com. That's where you must go to find him these days. That's jordanmaxwellshow.com. This is the latest in a series of monthly specials brought to us by www.freestylehomes.com. And I mentioned earlier on, get on to freestylehomes.com and send a big thanks to Andy Hunter, who is a huge supporter of the independent media, and he's a big fan of Jordan Maxwell's. Jordan Maxwell, welcome back to the programme. How are you?
Oh, thank you for having me back on. I'm just doing the best I can here in Los Angeles area, you know. But anyway, I'm still here. Like I said to you before, I'm always amazed. I'm still here. I'm 75 years old, but
75 not out. In cricket, that's a good innings.
Well, my body is tired, but my mind is going 100 miles an hour. So
brilliant. Talking about that before, it is a period. It is a very kind of a rich period in terms of the creative juices flowing around in your big old brain there. There is a lot going on, yeah. That's good.
And the subject I wanted to talk about, I think it's probably going to take most of the program to just lay the foundations of why I am saying what I'm saying, because it's a very big subject and it's a very tough one. And but I think it's something that needs to be said. It's been too long not talked about in public, so I want to talk about something that's very important. And that is how we got into how the whole world got into the mess we're in. I have an idea because I've been looking at this for over 50 years, and I've been putting this together over the years and looking at it from every angle. I want to go back to a book that was written, I don't know, maybe 3,000 years ago or more, in the ancient Grecian Empire, and is called the Theogony of Hesiod. Spell Hesoid, Hesiod. The Theogony of Hesiod was a book that we're told that Hesiod lived about 700 BC, and he was an illiterate herdsman in ancient Greece. And in the book that he wrote, he said that he was out with his minding the flock as a herdsman, and that three angels that were glowing, and he called them, or he said that they told him that they were called muses, M-U-S-E-S, muses. And he said that these three muses floated up to him. They didn't walk up, but he saw them coming, and they floated up to him, glowing angels. This is from the Theogony of Hesiod. And of course, when these muses floated up to him, incidentally, this is where we get the word museum and music and amusement. Is from Theogony of Hesiod, muses. So anyway, the muses telepathically told Hesiod that they wanted him to write a book about the gods that ruled over the heavens. And he told them that he could not read or write. He was illiterate. But they said that they would guide him by automated writing. And they would begin to download the so-called pecking order of the gods in heaven. They wanted him to write down for us humans all the gods in heaven and who controls who and who works for who and who's important and who isn't and all that kind of thing. And so it became that whole book became known as the Theogony of Hesiod, where he explains all the different gods in our universe. But they told him that the god over our particular area of the Milky Way galaxy, it's a big galaxy, but over our particular area in which our solar system is, the god who was assigned to this area to be in control is a god named Zeus, Zeus. And they said that Zeus lived on a floating city. That's interesting. He lived on a floating city in the constellation of Cassiopeia. That alone sounded interesting to me a long time ago, that Zeus lived in a floating city in the constellation of Cassiopeia. And the Muses went on to tell Hesiod that if Zeus were to drop an anvil from his front porch, it would take 9 days and 9 nights and so many hours for it to hit the earth. Well, it's easy to calculate that distance, which is about a little over 3 million miles from Earth. And so they said, according to Muses and Hesiod, I mean, I wasn't there, but according to Hesiod and the three Muses, Zeus is referred to as our Father who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name, Zeus, end quote. So, and he lived about 3 million miles from the Earth in a constellation, as I said, by the name of Cassiopeia. Now, it's interesting that back in 1930, the 1930s, there was an American astronomer named Carl Jansky, Jansky, Carl Jansky. And Carl Jansky built the first radio telescope. And of course, he won a Nobel Prize and has been called the father of modern radio telescopes, Carl Jansky. Then he also built a radio transmitter to beam signals into the heavens. And so somewhere around the mid-30s, 1930s, just to see what would happen, he began to transmit a signal to Cassiopeia. The article said it was 14.3 megacycles. And and if you can believe it, he got back an intelligent signal that was amplified, but he didn't know what it meant or who had sent it. So that is important, that he sent out a signal to Cassiopeia, but he got he got back a signal which was highly intelligent. Obviously, somebody sending back the signal, and it was amplified, which shows that it's it's not by chance out there. Somebody amplified it to make sure we got it. But as I said, Carl Jansky did not know what it meant, and or who sent it. But the story gets better. So let's hold on just a minute.
This is great stuff. I'm so glad you're getting into this. This is brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting because I got my notes all messed up here for a moment. Hold on.
Don't take your time. This is amazing. Yeah. This Jansky, and this is around the 1930s. You said early 1930s.
Yeah. Right. Around 1930s. Now, incidentally, when Carl Jansky died, all of his notes were immediately taken from his office by, quote, men wearing black suits, end quote. I don't know what that tells you.
The men in black.
Yeah, the men in black.
Wow.
And so when Carl Jansky died, obviously somebody knew what he was doing and realized that he was getting messages back, so they wanted to make sure that kind of information doesn't get out. So men in black suits, went through his office and took all the paperwork. Then later, in the mid-40s, a Scottish astronomer named Duncan Lunan, Lunan, Duncan Lunan, a Scottish astronomer, was working with Carl Jansky's radio telescope. And he also sent out a signal aimed at Cassiopeia. And he, too, got back a signal about 20 seconds later. And that signal was both intelligent and amplified. And like Jansky, he didn't know what it meant or who sent it. But Duncan Lunan narrowed the signal down to a particular star or a light in Cassiopeia, which is today called the Lunan object, Lunan object, the Lunan object. And you can look it up in the encyclopedia. Lunan object is a spot in Cassiopeia where these two astronomers were communicating with somebody out there 3 million miles away. And so that tells you that something was going on out there to start with. Now, let me make sure I got my notes here.
This,
There's
Jordan,
so much to it.
this is proof, isn't it? The paper he wrote, by the way, now I don't know any of this. As Jordan is talking, I'm doing a quick bit of research while Jordan is talking. It's amazing stuff, this. The paper he wrote was called Electrical Disturbances Apparently of Extraterrestrial Origin. Jansky was convinced that this was extraterrestrial in nature. And to confirm what Jordan said, yes, all these research materials were seized when he died. Every bit of it.
Yeah, it's been around. That story's been around for a long time.
Didn't know it. I love this. This is the essence of this program. I didn't know any of this. Amazing. Anyway, I'll shut up. Carry on, Jordan. Brilliant.
Well, anyway, so now we go to another subject. The word Father, because the Christians use that term, our Father. Well, in the ancient Sanskrit language, Father is Pitar, P-I-T-A-R, Pitar. In Old Persian, the word father is Pitta, P-I-T-A, not P-I-T-A-R, but in Old Persian is P-I-T-A. While in Greek and Latin, father is Pater, P-A-T-E-R. I remember many years ago hearing about pitter patter. Well, now I know what it means. It's father in Sanskrit, and father in Greek and Latin is pater, P-A-T-E-R. In ancient Greece, God the Father was Zeus. And so the official title for the god Zeus was Zeus Pater, P-A-T-E-R, simply meaning God the Father, because God is Zeus. Now, the Latin word God is not Latin word for God is not Z-E-U-S, Zeus, but D-E-U-S, Deus. And in the ancient Rome, God or Zeus was called I-U Peter, P-E-T-E-R, capital I-U hyphen P-E-T-E-R. This is Zeus in ancient Rome was Iupita. I's are interchangeables with J's, so Zeus or Iupita becomes J-U. Peter,
wow, right.
Which gives us Jupiter. In the Vatican today, there's a statue of an Apostle Peter that the encyclopedias the world over will tell you is not Peter. Christians going to the Vatican, seeing the statue of Peter sitting in the chair, and they're kissing his feet. They've actually kissed his feet so much that they've kissed the shoes off of. It's wore down the statue, but the billions of people kissing his feet. So there's a statue, as I said, in the Vatican. I've seen it. I was there, and it says that it was the Apostle Peter. But actually, all the reference works and the encyclopedias will tell you, no, it's not Peter. It's Jupiter, J-U-P-E-T-E-R, which is the Roman word for God, or Jupiter, the king of the gods. So what I'm saying is that in point of actual fact, Catholics and Christians all over the world are still praying to God, Dios in Latin, or Zeus, Jupiter. So today, there's a Suez Canal, which is Zeus spelled backwards. So once you begin to see that the God of the Vatican is Zeus, and goes on for that goes back a long time ago, and all the terms and symbols in the Vatican go back to the Greek and Roman era. While we're on the subject, the Greek Zeus, as I said, becomes Roman Jupiter, and another name for Jupiter is Jove, J-O-V-E. So when you hear someone say that God is love, and I remember hearing that and wondering, what are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. God is love. No, now I understand. Mistranslation. No, it's God is Jove. Jove, not Love. God is Jove. Well, of course, it goes back to the words in both Latin and Greek for God, which is Deus or Zeus. So in the ancient world, it was believed also that God Zeus protected royalty. It was said that Zeus, or our God, chooses the royalty. And this is why today royalty will tell you they have a divine right to rule. Where did they get it from? They got it from God. In Latin, Deus, and Greek, Zeus. So all royalty in the world are actually ruling for Zeus. And I don't know what that tells you, but that would explain a lot to me why the world is in such chaotic lunacy going on, because somebody out there was sending signals back to these two astronomers. And the only reason you didn't hear about this extraordinary situation where astronomers back in the 30s and 40s were communicating with somebody in the Cassiopeia constellation. The reason you don't hear about it is because the scientists, first of all, do not want to talk about anything whatsoever that they themselves didn't discover. And so if they didn't discover it, and they're not discovering something for their college and their university where they're making their money, then they're not going to talk about it. And of course, obviously, today's science would never discuss this in public because they don't know anything about it, and it would make them look like a fool, which they are anyway. So that's why you're not going to hear much about this. But go back and do some homework, and you will find we've been communicating with somebody intelligent, probably all over the universe, but for sure, somebody intelligent's been sending us signals from Cassiopeia as far back as the 1930s. And
can I ask you a question on that before you move on to? So could it be argued then? Have you made the argument, or have you considered the argument, that whatever is sending these intelligent messages from the Cassiopeia constellation is communicating with the elites on this planet? And if that's the case, then this intelligence in the Cassiopeia constellation isn't necessarily benevolent, Jordan. It's got to be some sort of malevolent intelligence.
That's exactly what I'm getting to. That's precisely where I'm going with this. That the people, royalty, and those people in power today are getting their marching orders. They are being communicated with by some higher intelligence that I would suggest should be referred to as an EBE, is what the term is used today. EBE stands for extraterrestrial biological entities, meaning someone out there is as real as you are, and you're real on this earth, they're real on their planet, but they're higher intelligence, far, far superior to anything on the earth, and they have been, according to the ancient peoples of the world and all the ancient teachings of the Hindus, the Egyptians, the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, the Greeks, the Romans, all of the ancient cultures talk about, and all the ancient religions talk about the gods, the terms which are used like demons, devils, poltergeist, spirits, all kinds of other world entities are talked about in the Bible. Sons of God, that's a whole different subject. And so what I'm saying is that there's something going on outside of us. And this is why I'm sure that the Knights Templars, who are today referred to as the international bankers, but the Knights Templars back in the 9th and 10th century had a saying of as above, so below. Well, it makes sense. If they were getting communication, some sort of a communication that we're not aware of, but they were getting it, guiding the Knights Templars to set up a world system of banking, of government, and of religion, and to ultimately take over the entire planet for somebody out there. And they get to ride the wave and live high as long as they are serving their masters from somewhere out there. Well, this concept is not new. I mean, my God, this is what the Bible's been talking about for, from day one. This is what all the ancient religions of the world talk about, the gods, the ancient ones. And it might turn out to be that what we call mythology may in point of fact be, no, not just a story. It may be actual communication of stories about the world that has been misrepresented to you, saying that people like gods like Zeus are all a bunch of mythology, it's just stories. Where it very well might turn out to be, no, there is a biological entity, an extraterrestrial entity, we call, gods or demons or whatever you want to call them, that have been in communication with humans all along. And that's a secret that's kept among the elite. The elite today are able to make decisions and have powers over us that we can't comprehend, we can't do anything about, we don't know anything about it. And of course, knowledge is power. And since we have no knowledge of any of this going on behind our backs with the powers that be, so to speak, now it would begin to look like maybe all of this chaos that we are experiencing on the earth has been from day one, as far back as we have human history. Somebody is manipulating and controlling the human family, and they're using their human counterparts to do it. So while we are crawling on our knees and making signs of the crosses when we see the Pope, and crawling on our knees when we see, Prince Charming and the queens and kings and rulers, how they live and roll around in gold chariots and flip their cigarette ashes on the working class people. It very well might be that these elites are in league with higher spiritual dimensions, and that the entire world of mankind, like the Bible says, the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. It doesn't say the whole world except Alabama or the whole world except Canada. No, it says in the scripture the entire world of mankind is lying in the power of the wicked one. Meaning, we should go back and explain to you that the word Zeus, first of all, we know him to be the king of the gods, or a Greek god of the sky. Zeus was the first of the gods, and I'm reading from Encyclopedia. He's often referred to as the father of gods and men. He was a sky god who controlled lightning and thunder, and he used it as a weapon. This is interesting and important, that Zeus was the god of lightning and thunder. Why? Because in the book of Job, the Old Testament book of Job, talks about the Almighty God, the one that we think is the Jewish God. No, it's not the Jewish God. We're talking about Zeus, but it's in the Old Testament. And incidentally, the book of Job is the oldest book in the Bible. We're not sure where it came from. So in the oldest book in the Bible, the book of Job, Job 26, says about God. Job says, behold, behold, these on the, wait a minute, let me read it. These are but the outskirts of his way, and how small and how small a whisper do we hear. Then it goes on to say in Job 26:14, but the thunder of his power is very great and past understanding. Job 37:5 said, God thunders wonderfully with his voice. There are other scriptures in the book of Job and other scriptures in the Old Testament talks about we see God through his lightning and through his thunder. He talks to us. So what you're talking about in the Old Testament is not Yahweh or Jehovah. You're talking about Job. You're talking about Zeus, the god of lightning and thunder. It's written in the scriptures that God thunders with his voice. So once you understand that, Zeus was the king on Mount Olympus. And it says in the scripture, I mean, it says in the reference work that Zeus rules the world and imposes his will on all mankind from Mount Olympus. Well, that's important because if you start with, say, Zeus being God, or Deus in Latin, God, which is Zeus, Zeus's holy mountain was Mount Olympus. Well, there are at least 15 holy mountains we know of on the earth. A few with like Mount Fuji in Japan, Mount Ararat in Armenia, Mount Athos in Greece, Mount Everest. Even in California, we have Mount Shasta. And as we've already, maybe you've already figured out that Mount Olympus becomes, for the ancient cult worshippers of the moon, in the ancient world, there was a moon cult in the Middle East where Mount Olympus was. But this ancient moon cult, they had a god named Sin, S-I-N. Sin was the name of the moon god in ancient Arabia. And the mountain was called Ai. You put the god of the mountain, Sin, with his mountain Ai, because Mount Sinai. So Mount Sinai, and later on, the organization, the World Organization of Mount Sinai, put together the idea of a Mount Zion. So the bottom line on all of this is that the ancient moon god of Arabia, which was Sin, S-I-N, or we today refer to Sin as Allah, and the Hebrews talk about the moon god as Yahweh. Yahweh and Allah are the same God, going back to the ancient god Sin, which was a moon cult. And so many of the holy mountains of ancient Arabian moon cult, like Mount Sinai or Mount Zion, are today felt to be so holy and so righteous and important, when actually what we're talking about with Mount Sinai, Mount Zion, with all of the holy mountains, all of it is going back to the theogony of Hesiod. It's going back to something 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Somebody, some angels, some spirit entities. I mean, we know that they exist. All kinds of dark forces are at work around the world. So what am I saying? I'm saying that there's no doubt in my mind that the religions of this world, I don't care which ones they are, I don't care what you belong to, what cults or what sect or what religion you belong to, if it's Islam or Christianity, Judaism, all of these religions are all connected behind the scenes. If you go back far enough to thousands of years ago, you will begin to see that the ancient peoples were worshiping a actual extraterrestrial biological entity. There were, in fact, extraterrestrial presence in the universe and on the earth that we ourselves are not seeing. So we put these ideas into our mind that we're talking about God and we're praying to the Lord, etc., never realizing for a moment what we're talking about is a very hidden, dark secret that the powers that be in this world, what we call the elites, have known from day one. This is why they don't get excited or angry or get upset about the people crying out and rioting in the streets. They're not bothered. The people like Obama and all the others who are running this world are not interested or bothered by people in the streets rioting for justice. They don't care about that. They're not moved by that. You can see these wealthy people roaming around in their gold chariots. They don't care about what you think and about what you don't like.
So Jordan, they don't fear an inevitable turning of the tide where people stop fighting one another and turn their attention on them. They don't worry about that.
Nope. They're not the bit worried about that. Not even a little bit. Why? Because they know they are in touch with a higher power that you don't know about. They are in touch with and in league with demonic, powerful, otherworld powers. Well, that's what the Bible's been telling us for years. I mean, the scriptures, for instance, in Revelation 17:18, follow this from the Bible in Revelation 17:18, and it says, "And the woman you saw is the great city that has an empire over the kings of the earth." That is extraordinary. I mean, if you think about what you just heard.
Yeah.
Revelation 17:18 says, "And the woman you saw is the great city that has an empire over the kings of the earth." That's implying that there's some kind of a world empire that's been in existence from day one that controls nations, races, kings, and all of the so-called elite. Then in the book of Ephesians 6:12, in the New Testament, as the Apostle Paul says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the world rulers of this darkness, and the spiritual wickedness in high places." That is really important. Go back and listen to this again. Ephesians 6:12. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities," meaning government, "against powers." What powers? "And against the rulers of this world darkness." Well, we know the world is in darkness, but this scripture is showing you, no, there are rulers over this world of darkness. They're keeping it dark, making sure you don't get enlightened. So they're keeping you for thousands and thousands of years, keeping the human race in the dark.
But you're not telling us we're screwed, though. Because
Say it again?
When you said that they don't live in fear, that eventually we will turn on them because of the power they are drawing from the otherworldly entities. But at the same time, I've known you a few years. You're not telling us that we're screwed. There is a way out of this.
Well, yeah, let me go on.
Yeah. Can I do a quick recap? I've got to take a break anyway. Tell you what we'll do.
Okay.
I'm going to do just a very quick recap, then a quick break, then we'll come back, and then you have the floor again. This is exceptional stuff. It's the very reason this program was set up to begin with. We've been chatting with Jordan Maxwell for the last 35 minutes. We started off talking about Hesiod, who wrote a poem called The Theogony, way back around about 700 BC. He was visited by entities, Jordan was explaining, which explained to him the origins and the genealogies of the Greek gods, who they were, the pecking order, and all of that. And Zeus came up in the revelations made to Hesiod. And we learned that Zeus was the king of the gods, and we learned where he was based. He was based in the constellation Cassiopeia. And this is very important. And what we learned then from Jordan is that an astronomer, and anybody who studies astronomy will know more about this guy than I do, because I know very little about him, Karl Jansky. He was a physicist and a radio engineer, and he was crazy about astronomy. And he's basically the guy who founded radio astronomy. Back in the 1930s, he was sending signals out into deep space in the direction of Cassiopeia and started to get some answers. He started to get signals coming back. This is incredible. He wrote a paper about it. It was peer-reviewed. The paper said basically this is happening. You know, this is an extraterrestrial. Signal. When he died, everything that he owned and all his research materials were taken away, and they were, I suppose, destroyed, or they were put far away from where the rest of us could see them. But later on, Scottish astronomers and others were able to validate what Jansky had discovered, this extraterrestrial signal coming from Cassiopeia. And then Jordan was talking about the elites on this planet, and how they are well aware of this, and how they have been in communication with this intelligent form of life, this entity who is based, or whose energy is based at Cassiopeia, and it's what they draw their power from. And he went on to explain that in more detail. I think that's not a bad summing up, is it, my friend, before we take a quick break?
Yeah, well, there's one last thing I wanted to add about the Latin word deus, which comes from Zeus, deus. In the old Persian language, deus is referred to as Daiva, D-A-I-V-A, in the old Persian, which means evil or demonic god. So in the ancient Persian, Deus or Zeus or Diva becomes an evil demonic god. So by a dictionary definition, that would mean that Christianity worldwide is worshiping an ancient demonic god, and or, said another way, an extraterrestrial biological entity which is very, very powerful, very knowledgeable, sending communications to the elite of the earth. And Nikola Tesla talked about this, and all the great minds in the world have talked about this, from Plato, and all the different philosophers talked about the communication with the devil, communication with the evil ones, or communication with the gods. This idea has been around as long as man has.
This is brilliant stuff. It's 9 minutes past the hour. Jordan is going to stay with us. We'll be back with him in about 2 minutes' time. We've got a quick ad break to take. I will put one or two tweets to him, but there's a lot for him to get through. And then I'll get out of his way while he continues into this. This is amazing stuff. You're with the Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com. Don't go anywhere.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or other storage device? Maybe you have a broken hard drive containing years of information, or a smartphone that no longer works from which you'd like the pictures, movies, and chats recovered. If you would like to recover data from any type of digital device, including desktop and laptop computers, external hard drives, cameras, smartphones, NAS and RAID servers, then contact Data Clinic today at dataclinic.co.uk now.
NeonNettle.com, a new voice in alternative media. For unfiltered news at your fingertips, visit NeonNettle.com, the UK's #1 alternative news site. In association with The Richie Allen Show. NeonNettle.com.
Do you want to release the full potential of your soul consciousness and find out how to experience that power in all areas of your life now? Go to livingasyoursoul.com for free guidance with in-depth how-to articles, free healing meditations of creation recordings, free soul solutions, and much, much more. livingasyoursoul.com, making the profound practical.
Welcome back to the programme. 10 minutes past the hour. Jordan Maxwell is with me until the end of the show. Go to jordanmaxwellshow.com. That's jordanmaxwellshow.com. This is fantastic, and the reaction on social media to this is massive, huge. There are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of comments and tweets, and I've got emails as well. Go on Twitter, put in The Richie Allen Show, all one word, press enter, and see what other people are saying and join in the conversation about this. I will not be able to put all these questions to Jordan. I just won't be. But I'm going to put a few comments to him. There's some terrific comments. People are wide awake, Jordan, listening to this. Paul was on to say, Richie, did the same gods Jordan is describing, did they create us and the earth? That's a brilliant point. And further on from that point is a brilliant one from Martin Noakes. Great show, he says. If they are all powerful, why not openly take us over if that's what they want? So did they create us, number one? And number two, if they're all powerful, why not openly take us over and be done with it? Great stuff.
Yeah, well, if they did that, there would be mass rebellion, because now the cat's out of the bag. There is no God going to save you. You are a test tube experiment, and you've been produced so that you could be a slave to the gods who created you. And now the whole human race would rise up in revolution against such tyrants and against such extraterrestrials. And so that would be stupid. That would be foolish technologically and militarily point of view. It would be foolish for the gods to allow us to know that. They want to keep it quiet because the humans are rebellious to start with. But if we ever, as a human race on the earth, found out that we were nothing more than a test tube experiment by some ancient god who has a mind controlling us, then it needs to be kept quiet, because if the whole human race found out, my God, there would be massive chaos, because the bottom line is every single human has its own will, its own mind and own will. And so the intelligent thing to do would be just like human governments and human religions do. They're not stupid. The human governments and religions will try and work with you. They will give you this, they will give you that, and let you vote on this and let you vote on that. And you have certain rights and freedoms to speak and do what you want and eat what you want. And so leave it up to you so that you are free. When in point of fact, no, you're not free. You've never been free. But they don't tell you that. They don't come out and just tell you, because if somebody came out and told you what was going on, you would rebel quickly and there would be worldwide revolution. So obviously, whoever it is that created us and put us here and have been leading us along and giving us our religions, our philosophies, our government, our institutions of education, our banking, our whole incredible system that we live under on the earth. If somebody, whoever those somebodies are not so stupid as to tell and allow the world to know we own you and we're just playing with you like you and I would do with a fish in a bowl.
Jordan, tell us this, because this is really important. 14 minutes past the hour. Is there compartmentalization going on here? Who knows about this? I mean, we can assume that the British royal family, at the highest levels of that family, are aware of it. But do sitting prime ministers and presidents know it, Jordan? Are they left in on this secret?
Oh, yes. Yes. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I've talked to people very high in government, very high in religion over the past 55 years. I've been doing this kind of thing. And for the first 40 years, I knew about these ideas and concepts, but it really didn't see it. I didn't really take it to heart. I just understood it intellectually. But as you get older, you begin to perceive things differently as an older person does. So after looking at the world and traveling around the world and talking to experts in all the countries and reading and studying all of this kind of stuff going on in history, it becomes overwhelmingly now obvious to me that the royalty, the power blocks, the powerful people in this world, they are in league with. And how many times have you heard movie stars and important people, and especially in the entertainment business, talking about how they sold their soul to the devil?
Regularly. That's an amazing point. Yeah.
And so what are you talking about? Sold your soul to the devil to be famous and to be wealthy. Well, it implies, obviously, that somebody out there, as above, so below, somebody out there has an absolute total control over whatever happens in our little Mickey Mouse Earth and our little solar system. There are higher powers. I mean, Hollywood's been telling you that for years, with the V and the visitors who come here from another world, who have all the high technology. And then on the movies like V, the big shots who want to be in with the visitors. They want to crawl over and be, they want to represent the visitors. They want to be in power. So when the visitors, whoever they are and from wherever world they have come from, they're obviously powerful. They are obviously in charge. And so the people who are traitors to the human race want to jump in and say, I'll represent you. Let me be the president and let me be vice president and I'll represent you, and I can now ride around in gold chariots and flip my cigarettes on all the poor, and I can live like a king and a prince. If you let me be a part of it. I don't want to be like the working class people. I don't want to be the slaves. Let me represent you. And so they are representing demonic forces that are over this earth for thousands of years. We have known that.
Jordan, can I just jump in there? This is very important. This is amazing stuff, by the way, and thanks for this. On this point about them representing demonic forces, we are finding more and more people around the world who are saying that as children they survived horrendous sex abuse, and that a lot of that sex abuse was satanic in nature. That satanic rituals were going on. You know what's amazing, Jordan, when you do a program like this? You hear somebody in Australia tell you a story, and she describes things happening to her when she was a child. And then you talk to a chap who's in Oregon, and he tells you it's the same story and describes the same things. And then you hear from somebody in South Africa. It's incredible. How important to them is the abuse and the murder and the ritualistic events that they put on, killing children? How important is that to them?
Oh, well, I wasn't even going to get into this.
I know that, but because we were talking about it this week, I had to bring it up. Go on.
No, but I was going to say I wasn't going to get into this, but it's a very important part of this subject, so I might as well talk about it. You know, when you're talking about creation, and, you know, the idea in Christianity is that only God can create life. Only God creates life. Well, in point of fact, that's a misnomer, because in the male, in the man, and the time of sex, the fluid in the human body of the male is just fluid. It's like blood and spit and all the other fluids that are in the human body. And so before ejaculation in sex, that fluid is just fluid. It's just a body fluid that the body produces. But at the time of ejaculation, there is an electrical discharge of some kind of an electrical discharge in the human male, which then creates from that fluid actual living sperm that are alive. And so therefore that tells you that when the human creature man connects to the creator for a few seconds in what we call sex, ejaculation, the something happens to that fluid, which now becomes alive, and it now has the ability to connect to the female system, electrical system, and create a new human. So when we say that only God can create life, well, that's what man does in sex. Now, the incredible spiritual high in sex obviously is some sort of an electrical frequency that is affecting the man during sex, and that is the life. That's what's putting life into the sperm so that it can create another human. So that's why we say that man is manufacturing. The male is manufacturing, and the woman is in labor, creating the new product. So when that it gets back into the thousands of years ago, the maritime admiralty concepts of humans being nothing more than a human resource, and that somebody out there has designed us so that when we recreate a human, there is an electrical frequency that goes through our bodies and our brain, the male and the female, that is an electrical system that is in fact creating another living creature. So what I'm saying is that there is something to this idea of sex in relation to communication with the God who created us. There's something going on bigger than just all this evil sexual state. No, there's a reason why the sex is an important part of all of this, because it is the time, that moment when man leaves himself and becomes one with the divine and that spiritual feeling that during sex. So what we're talking about is some kind of a communication system whereby the man and the woman are connecting to the divine presence, which is referred to as God, and so there's a very important connection between sex and the secret rituals, sexual worship, sexual abuse. That's why it's in churches. That's why it's in all three major religions, not only in the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church. You're seeing sex abuse in all the cults, but you're also seeing it rampant in your face in Islam, where grown men are marrying 6-year-old child, marrying little 7-year-old girls. And the Hebrew and then the Jewish tradition, the Talmud, is filled with all kinds of statements that it's all right to have sex with a child, it's okay to have sex with a 4-year-old, 6-year-old. And we know, of course, as you said, all the ancient pictures and movies about sexual rituals, demonic rituals, always brings in sex. The reason why sex is involved in all of this is because it puts man in connection to some kind of an electrical communicational frequency with the Creator.
Well, you mentioned Islam there, and I'm not trying to be politically correct here, but I must point out this, and I know you know this, but just for our listeners, we're learning almost on a daily basis that tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of children over the years have been horrifically abused in this country by the political elites, the white political establishment in this country. And we know through the research of David, for example, in his book The Biggest Secret back in 98, that Edward Heath, the former Prime Minister, was raping and murdering children on a yacht in Jersey. So, and of course you said it anyway, the three major religions, the political establishment, the VIPs, it's something they don't seem to be able to keep a lid on, Jordan. I just want to mention a couple of quick tweets, and I'll get out of your way again, because there's so much coming in here, and I don't want to ignore all these tweets. People are loving this. This was brought to us by freestylehomes.com. Andy and the gang there. Thank them online. Thank you, Andy. I want to say hi to Sight Restored, to Ian. Ian asks about women menstruating. Has that got anything to do with that? Maybe you might come back to that in a second. Lynn was on to say, is Jordan talking about artificial intelligence as the higher intelligence? He might come back to that in a minute. Massive amount of tweets there, and Tony says very, very much spot on this, Tony. Tony says a lot of the symbolism to back up what Jordan is saying, you can see it around Washington. They even have a statue of Zeus outside the train station there, says Tony. And of course you've gone on programs with me over the years, and you've gotten into in great detail the occult symbology around the world and the buildings and the statues, and it's an amazing subject. You've been writing about it for years and years, Jordan. That's amazing stuff, this 25 minutes past the hour. Has it got anything to do with women menstruating? I mean, that's, that might be a bit off the wall. What do you think?
That's exactly right. And this is why you have the circumcision of boys and girls. You have, in Judaism, you have the rabbis cutting the foreskin off the baby and then sucking the blood from the penis. What is all that stuff about?
I'd love to know.
It has to do with some kind of a sexual relationship that the gods want. They want some kind of a connection or have a connection with us. And we connect with the God who created us when we're delving into these rituals of sex. You're connecting yourself with something higher than you are, something that's out there. And so, we have Christians telling us about God. Well, ask a 6-year-old, where is God? And they'll point out into the sky. Well, then so therefore God is out there. Well, if God is out there, what about angels? Do you believe in angels? Yes. Where are angels? And the child will point out there. Well, out there is extraterrestrial, meaning God is not here on the earth. He's out there. And so obviously all the religions that have ever been on the earth, all agree that God and the extraterrestrial, what we call angels or sons of God or watchers or jinns or whatever you want to call them in your religion, they are out there. They're not here. And therefore they are obviously, all gods are superior to man. And so, but in order to connect to these gods, you do it through not a telephone call, you do it through sex. And so the whole ejaculation idea puts life into a fluid and it becomes alive. So when you start talking about God, you need to go back and do your homework, because what are you talking about? Well, going back to this idea of Revelation 17, where it says, and the woman you saw is the great city that has an empire over the kings of the earth, period. And then in Ephesians 6:12, the Apostle Paul said, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the world rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. Well, when you look at the word in the Bible in Ephesians 6:12, world rulers of darkness, the word is a Greek word called cosmokratoros, spelled Kosmokratoros, cosmokratoros. Cosmokratoros is in English in the Bible, world rulers of darkness, cosmokratoros, which is where we get the word cosmos, meaning a world, and kratos is the ruler. So the rulers of the world, in the Greek word, is cosmokratoros, the world rulers of darkness. And so God, as I said, in Latin is Dios, and in Persian is Diva, meaning evil and demonic gods. So as I said before, a dictionary definition of the situation is that means Christianity and the rest of the world, but especially Christianity, is worshiping a diva or a demonic god. Now that might explain the wars, the bloodshed, human slavery, sexual rituals for thousands of years. And this is why the scripture says, has Jesus saying, by their fruits you shall know them. Well, the scripture talks about a group of people who came to Jesus, and they had in their hand seeds. And they asked him, what kind of seeds are these? And he said, go plant the seed. Don't ask me a stupid question like that. Go plant the seeds, water it, and watch what comes up. And if apple trees come up, well, that answered your question with apple seeds. But if oranges comes up, then it was an orange seed. So by their fruits, you will know them. So I am saying, what is the fruitage of royalty? What is the fruitage of world religions? What is the fruit of elites running the world? What is the fruitage? Wars, violence, revolution, drug addiction, alcoholism, sexual abuse, lunacy, bloodshed, all of the lunacy that the human mind is capable as being led by, and of course we know this says in the Bible, we're being led by the devil. The whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. That's what the scripture said. It doesn't say the whole world except for London. No, the whole world, period, is lying in the power of the wicked one. So the idea being expressed in the Bible and by all the ancient world religions are saying the same thing, that the entire earth and all human creatures on it are being led by a higher power in the universe that you don't understand. And that's why the Knights Templars always said, as above, so below. Look at the fruitage of the world system we live under. Look at its fruitage. Look at how many people are dying every day, rituals and killings and murder and alcoholism and all the violence and all the sundry stuff that's going on. And we now know the human race is finally awakening to the fact that we are now in a runaway train coming down from the mountain with no brakes. We are on a collision course with destiny. The whole world of mankind is on a collision course with the dark and the occult God. Something is happening to the human race, and all of our so-called leaders and political leaders and religious leaders are all part of a dark, dark secret. By their fruits you will know them.
Jordan, let's pause there. 28 minutes to the top of the hour. We've got a shorter break this time. When we come back, Jordan will take us. We'll have another 20 minutes or thereabouts. This is outstanding stuff. Thanks for all your tweets and all your emails. I'll just do the break really quickly then, not to waste any more time. We'll get Jordan back on after that. This is the Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com, broadcasting on Fab Radio International, Fab Radio 2 here in Manchester, and of course on ACR, AlternateCurrentRadio.com.
Do you want to release the full potential of your soul consciousness and find out how to experience that power in all areas of your life now? Go to livingasyoursoul.com for free guidance with in-depth how-to articles, free healing meditations of creation recordings, free soul solutions, and much, much more. livingasyoursoul.com, making the profound practical.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or other storage device? Maybe you have a broken hard drive containing years of information, or a smartphone that no longer works from which you'd like the pictures, movies, and chats recovered. If you would like to recover data from any type of digital device, including desktop and laptop computers, external hard drives, cameras, smartphones, NAS, and RAID servers, then contact Data Clinic today at dataclinic.co.uk now.
Welcome back. 25 minutes to the top of the hour. Brilliant stuff from Jordan Maxwell on the Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com, brought to us by FreestyleHomes.com. Thank you, Andy Hunter, terrific supporter of the independent media. Love that. Andy and others, it must be said. Jordan Maxwell's website is jordanmaxwellshow.com. Listen to that, jordanmaxwellshow.com. The other website is, for the moment, it's got nothing to do with Jordan for the moment, right? So it's jordanmaxwellshow.com. This has flown by. I'm not going to attempt to do a summing up again because I'd be here all night trying to do it. I want to say hi to Sean McDonald. Sean is asking a great question about our souls. We'll come to that in a couple of minutes. Jordan, a number of listeners, including Paul, including Cahill. Cahill is listening to this in Dublin. How you doing, Cahill? And they're saying the same thing. All these ridiculous wars, the Pentagon is going to spend billions on European defence because it says that Russia is going to kill us all. The British government want to send troops to Libya because we haven't killed enough people there in 2011. We need to kill more. ISIS, all of this. All these listeners asking you the same question in a roundabout way. Unknown to us, or to most of us, is this part of a never-ending blood cult providing blood sacrifice to Zeus or to these entities, these gods?
That's exactly what I think it is, precisely. I couldn't have said it better. I think that these wars are a method of offering up blood sacrifices to somebody out there. Somebody out there, and then, like I said, well, where is God? Well, he's out there. Well, somebody's out there. And we now know, after way too long of hiding it, we now know that there's all kinds of activity in our solar system. We're finding things on Mars and in other planets. There's a world of knowledge that has not been given to us humans. But somebody out there is causing all of these things to happen. And of course, classically, Christianity would say it was the devil. And the devil and his demons. Well, Hindus, the Islamics would say is jinns, and it's Satan, and the Jews in the Bible talk about the Satan and the demonic realm. Everybody has heard about the demonic realm. What is it? It's actually, in point of fact, a presence in the universe that is highly intelligent, extraordinarily brilliant, and unbelievably evil. that is doing something. It's creating us for, we're creating the humans for whatever reason. And maybe there's always the possibility that someone created us a long time ago and they are gone. And they don't know what's happening to their original creation. And maybe when they come back, like Steven Spielberg with his movie about E.T. going home, maybe whoever they are who created us, when they come back, that's what Zechariah Sitchin and others are talking about, when they come back and see what has happened to their creation, because someone else has been watching us while they were gone and messing with us and with all kinds of blood sacrifices. There's a girl that you need to have on. There's a young lady you need to have on about this one subject, blood sacrifices in relation to world government. Her name is Tracy Twyman. Tracy, Twyman. Tracy Twyman will just blow your mind. The stuff that she has uncovered over the years is absolutely extraordinary stuff about blood sacrifices, blood rituals in relation to money and in relation to political power, how there has to be a certain amount of blood for a certain amount of power. And so you need to have her on, Tracy Twyman.
We'll do it. We'll do it. I'm on her website as you speak, Jordan, because it isn't only the fairer species, women that can multitask. I'm all over that. I'm on her website now as we're talking. This is outstanding stuff. Jordan Maxwell live on the Richie Allen Show for a Wednesday on this monthly series of brilliant programs. Jordan, there was a great question came to mind a second ago when you were talking about the elites, and when you were talking about these entities, and you answered in part because there's a yin and a yang, there's an X and there's a Y, so there is a benevolent energy, a force for good that exists in the universe, but at the moment it's completely dormant in terms of what's happening on this planet. And here's a question for you now. Here's a great question that's just come in. Wonderful question about animals. Let me find it now. And the question is about, and it's from, I think it's from Shaquille. It is from Shaquille. It's from Shaquille Chowdhury. How you doing, Shaquille? Richie, this is great stuff from Jordan. Seriously interesting. I'm not sure if this is relevant, Richie, but I'll ask it anyway. Does Jordan agree with the idea, humans feeding on animals, so other forces feeding on us is really just the same? That's a great question, Jordan.
I think there's something to that. I think there's something to that. Yeah, it rings true with me.
It's
that
deep,
just the
isn't
way
it? That
we treat animals, put them in cages. We eat the ones we like, and we put the others in cages. And sometimes you will have fight promoters who will put two animals, like a chicken fight or a dog fight, and so that's what somebody up there is doing. They're putting us in a fight with somebody else just to watch the bloodshed, just to be watch the fight go on. And there's enough blood being shed, and of course that helps financially. And so, yeah, I think there is something to that. How we communicate with animals and eat them and lock them up, and we go out looking for them to kill them, and we call that game, big game hunting, because it's like a game to the gods. That's why you have to have a game warden, and you're going out to a big game hunting, because it's a game that you're playing to kill animals. Well, I think for the gods out there, whoever they are, it's a game that they're playing us against one country against another, playing one people against another, and watching the bloodshed. And so it's just a big game. But at this point, I wanted to, because we only have a few minutes left.
Yeah, we've got a good 10 to 12 minutes left, so yeah, take it away.
Okay,
there.
Well, let's take the word church, and we've talked about this before. People, millions and millions of people around the world going to churches, just like there are millions of people going to mosques, and millions of people are going to synagogues. The world goes to worship all the time. Well, the word worship is a combination of two words. The first word is worth, W-O-R-T-H. Worth is the value of something, and worship becomes the value that you put your life into. So whatever is important to you and what's really of worth to you is your worthship. And so if it's money, well, then that's what your worth, you put a high worth on that. Or if it's on another person, on your loved one, that's what, is really worthy, worth. And so that's where we get the word worship. No, it's worthship. Now, we go back to the word church, and I've talked about this before, but I think it's very important that the word church comes from a Scottish word, kirk, which can be, so C-H-U-R-C-H in English, church, is actually connected to a Scottish word, kirk, K-E-R-K or K-I-R-K. Kirk in Scottish is church in English. But where did the word kirk, how did it come into Scotland? It came through the Crusaders. In the Middle Ages, when the Crusaders went into the Middle East, into Jerusalem, to do battle with the Islamic presence there, there was a war going on for the control of Jerusalem and the Holy City, which is another misnomer. There's nothing holy in that city, but bloodshed everywhere. But when the Knights Templars came back to Rome, they came back to Europe after the Great War. They had, while they were there in the Middle East, they learned all kinds of new ideas. They learned about the different religions, the different gods, the different ways of fighting, the different poisons that you could poison people. They learned all kinds of interesting things while they were there. So when the Knights Templars came back to England and ended up into northern part of the island, which we call Scotland, that gives us our Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Well, in Scotland, there, as I said, a church was kirk, K-I-R-K. But kirk goes back to, in the Middle East, the worship of a goddess named Circe, C-E-R-E-S. Circe or Circe, and Circe was a goddess in the Middle East that the Knights Templars learned about. And so Circe in the Middle East, being a goddess, was referred to as Mother Circe or Mother Circe. And so Mother Circe, if you go back to mythology, books on mythology, and read about Mother Circe from the Middle East, from the ancient Greek world, Mother Circe was able to hypnotize people and bring them into her home. And when they came into her home under hypnotism, she would then lock the doors behind them so they couldn't get out, and then would take their minds away from them and relegate them down to an animal. And then she would feed off of them. They would feed her, she would eat them. And so that's where the word church comes from Circe to kirk to church. And so what we're talking about is Mother Church is able to bring people in under hypnosis with all the candles and the chanting and the holiness of all holy. And so people see that and they think it's holy and there's righteous. And so they go into the church. Then the door is shut behind them. No longer can you educate yourself. No longer can you think clearly about anything. You can't do any research. You can't do anything. And then you end up by sending the money and supporting Mother Church. And so that's why in the book of Revelation, in Revelation 18, it says, and read it, Revelation 18:4, and it says, I heard another voice from heaven saying, get out of her, my people, if you do not want to participate in her sins. It doesn't say get out of her, Buddhist, or get out of her, Hindus. No, the scripture says in Revelation 18:4, get out of her, my people, my people. So in the New Testament Bible written to Christians, get out of her, my people, if you don't want to participate with her in her sins. So what I'm saying, the scripture is saying, not me, is that if you're in a church, you better get out. You better leave the church and start educating yourself. Go and do something you've never done before. Read a book. Go to a library. Go on the web. Go to a university. Start reading about where the word church comes from, where religion comes from, what the word means, what the word cosmocratorus means in Ephesians 6:12. You better start breaking all of this down, because for thousands of years it's been in front of your face. We are nothing more than a test tube experiment by some higher powers which are, quote, out there, end quote. Somebody is raping the human race, and the elites and the religious leaders, the political leaders, are all in league with this higher power. And that's how they get to be, in point of fact, in power. And we don't get anything. Why? Because in answer your question, what can we do? I'm saying we can't do anything. And the reason why is because knowledge is power. Knowledge has always been power. And if you don't have the knowledge to understand how this stuff has been working for 6,000 to 10,000 years on the earth, then you can't do anything about it, because you don't even know what's going on. So I'm suggesting you need to wake up and read and understand how this world really works.
We started talking, you and I, in 2008, 2009, and every now and then I get the impression that you get a little bit down in yourself. You get a little bit pissed off. And I think... Well, yeah. Can I just finish that thought? Because I think that you forget just how vital your research has been over the 50 years and the books you've written and the information you've put out there. You are one of the main reasons. You are among several people that I've always named that have influenced me. You are one of several people whom are responsible for the fact that shows like this exist, why people like me and others walk away from commercial media and do this sort of stuff. Don't ever get down on yourself, because it's an organic thing. More and more people on a daily basis are saying to themselves, something is very wrong here. And they're discovering your research, yours and David's and everybody else's. They're discovering it through programs like this, which only exist because of you. And that's a wonderful thing. Don't ever get down about it, you know?
Well, I appreciate that, and it's very kind of you. But I'm telling you, after 55 years of trying to wake people up and proselytizing these ideas in Hollywood for some 45 to 50 years, talking at studios and talking to lectures and traveling around at seminars, trying to explain to people that we are not in charge and that there's a whole occult or hidden world of power that's over you, and you don't see it, and you fall right in line with it. And it controls your banking, your government, your religion, your educational, and the military. It controls the world, and you don't see it. And how to get away from all of that? Well, in the book of Jeremiah 16 says something very important. In the book, the Old Testament of the Bible, Jeremiah 6:16 says, it says, "Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the way, and see and ask for the old path, where it is the good way, and walk therein." And the people said, no, they will not walk in the old path. And so the scripture keeps telling us, like in Jeremiah 6:16, go back to the old way. And the people say, we don't want the old way. We want the new thing. We don't want the old way. So when you get back to that, that's a whole 2-hour program we have to do on one word, the very word way, W-A-Y, what it means, where it came from. So when someone says, this is the way to do something, or if you're going to go that way, the very word way implies something very, very dark and interesting when you break down the word. So we'll have to talk about that next time. But when the scripture says in Jeremiah 6:16, God said, go back and go to the old way. What does that mean? I'll tell you what it means on another program, because it's going to take an hour and a half to lay out the foundations again on just that word way. So, I don't know what to say about all of this. The bottom line is that knowledge is power. And I have been trying for so many years, going on 55 years now, trying to awaken people to the idea that nothing in this world works the way you think it does. And
but you've succeeded, though. Don't ever forget you've succeeded. I said this to David before when we shared an apartment together in London, Caroline, David and I. And every now and then, like yourself, David is a positive person 99.9% of the time. But occasionally, it gets you down a bit, guys like you. And I said, listen, look around at the people whom are talking about this stuff now. Youngsters, a 14-year-old child, Jordan, emails this program, tweets this program, and he's all over what Jordan Maxwell is talking about and what David Icke is talking about and others. This is a wonderful thing. Don't ever let that get you down. It's a privilege to present programs like this, to hear this sort of information, knowing that it's vital that people hear it and disseminate it, and it's vital because people are seeing it on the news. They're learning that those charged with their protection are a bunch of murdering paedophiles. They're learning that we're dropping bombs on children in poor countries for no good reason. And they're asking themselves now, it's not just about corruption, it must be something deeper. And they're finding their way to you and to others. You've been an amazing success, and you still have plenty more to do, by the way. You're not finished by a long way. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll very early in March, maybe the first Wednesday in March, maybe we'll book in and we'll pick this up again with you, mate, if that's okay with you. And I'm going to direct people again to go to jordanmaxwellshow.com. I meant what I said, Jordan. This is, I don't do this ass-kissing stuff. I don't do it. And I don't do self-importance. I'm not important at all. This program was set up for nights like this, mate. For nights like this, and for talking to guys like you. So remember that.
Oh, I appreciate it. I thank you. But I would also add this, that if you go on the web and put my name in, you will see an incredible amount of stuff out there about me, about I'm a liar and I'm a criminal. I've done this, I've done that. I changed my name. I must be a criminal. All kinds of scurrilous, ad hominem attacks on my name and my person. I know, because I've been told by people on the inside, the world is watching you, especially governments watching you and religions are watching you, and they are putting out a lot of stuff on the web to destroy your name, your reputation, and the work you've done for over 50 years. They want to destroy you off the earth. There are a lot of important people that are not happy about your being here, and they want you gone. And so when you're reading all of this scurrilous propaganda and stuff about me, just understand, I'm just an ordinary man trying to do what I've been doing all my life. It's helping people to wake up. I have people who have stolen my website, have stolen my money, who have stolen my emails, who have lied about me, who have set out all kinds of scurrilous propaganda about me. And I sit here with nothing, doing the best I can to educate my fellow man, because I believe this is something I've been given to do. I just want people to know that.
And they do know it, and wear it like a badge of honour, that sort of harassment, because it means you're affecting what these people want to do, and you're causing... you're the result. The result of what you're doing is millions of people around the world having a moment of pause now and wondering what's going on. Mate, I love having you on the programme. It's always great. I look forward to doing this in very early March. We'll keep this monthly show going as long as you want to do it. And I'll just finish this by just saying thanks again, Jordan Maxwell. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being my friend and for having me on the show.
It's an honour to be your friend, Jordan. Thanks very much, buddy. We'll talk again real soon. The great Jordan Maxwell on the line to us there from his home in Los Angeles. Do go to jordanmaxwellshow.com.